JB. So here we are again. So this morning, mid-afternoon, we talking about Lemens again, how we're in for Lemens, and we were looking at a keeper. Now I sort of came into this thinking that possibly we wouldn't. We've been talking about Lemens on this channel for a very, very long time, and it's transpired. So this is broken in the last 23, 24 minutes from Fabrizio that United are very, very close to a deal for Senne Lammens. The deal is going to be close to around euros wise about 20 million euros, which is about 17 million pounds. I don't know what you think about the deal. I think it's just over 17 million pounds for a 23-year-old 6'4" keeper who, if you look at his stats, and maybe we can go through his stats in a little bit tonight. His stats are, I think, for a keeper of his age, I think are probably some of the best out there. But if you have just joined, this is breaking the last 23 minutes. So we were in talks this morning. It's come out that we are in for Lemens, and it's transpired the last 23 minutes from Fabrizio. Basically, we are now club to club talks with Antwerp. Everything's been agreed with Lemens, and is now, it looks like the Lemens, the transfer on that looks like that is going to break very, very, very soon. I think this is definitely the right thing to do. 100%, definitely what we should be doing. Now, I did have some notes. I was actually going to come on and talk about the press conference as well, which I probably will come on and do the press conference at some point about what Amorim has said today on that one. But if you have just joined, this is from Fabrizio in the last 23-25 minutes, is that Senne Lammens is close. It is really, really close. Senne Lammens has agreed terms with the club. Senne Lammens is a goalkeeper who plays for Antwerp. We are club to club negotiations at the moment, but Fabrizio is basically saying that this is round about just under 20 million euro deal, not pounds. It translates to about, I think, 17.5 million pound deal. Now, I think this would be a really, really good signing. Do I think he's going to come in as number one? No, I don't. But I think he's coming in, as we spoke about on this channel many, many times, about what our expectations are, and we've briefly spoken about this morning as well. So if you have just joined, to follow up on the breaking news from this morning, I'm on my phone. I've had no time to set anything up. That breaking news, if you like, follow up from this morning, is basically that Senne Lammens is close. It is really, really close. Lemens has Toxic. Big up, my friend. I hope you're doing really, really, really well. I think some fantastic news. I think the news is brilliant. As we've said, what we do as a club, we negotiate with the player first. So Lemens has agreed. Obviously, with the Belieber stuff, that hasn't really meant a lot. And I'll give you a little update on Belieber as well, because there is something out there that I've seen that at this point I'm getting a little bit tired of certain reports that are out there now. So if you have just joined, Fabrizio in the last 25 minutes, half an hour ago, has pretty much said that this deal is close for Lemens, a goalkeeper, 23 years old, pretty much just turned 23 in May as well, 6'4". If you look at his stats, I think he's going to be a fantastic keeper. I don't think we'll get a midfielder now. Toxic again, mate. We can talk about that as well. We can talk about that. I think there's some things from the update as well that I did this morning, and we can maybe go through some of that and the Belieber stuff. There are still some reports out there, but we can just go through that as well. So if you have just joined, give us a thumbs up. Please get into the chat. Please be respectful to this amazing community. Toxic is on the chat right now, and he is absolutely legend of the chat. Backup who can challenge Onana. I believe he'll be at number one in 3 games. Toxic, I do not disagree. For X, yeah, I don't know what that is, my friend, and if I don't know, I'm not going to read it out. Basically, if you want to get into the chat, this is one of the best communities. This channel is up and coming. You know, not necessarily you because of me, but just because this amazing chat. So feel free to give us a like and subscribe. So I'll give you the update again. Breaking news to follow up on this morning, which I said that if anything else did break, anything else of significance, I would jump back on and let you guys know. So Fabrizio, so this is not Ross Harwood. That this is not an indicator. This is this is Ornstein, Romano, top tier who don't come out unless pretty much things are going to happen. Senne Lammens is close, so he's already agreed terms with us. Probably agreed terms weeks and weeks ago, but we're now going to make our move for this goalkeeper. I think this is a great move. I think in some respects for me, I think this is a really, really brave move. I think it's the move that we should be doing, right? So for me, Lemens 23 years old, so just turned 23 years old, 6'4". You look at his stats, and again, stats will take you so far, but if you want an indication, go and check out his overall stats. Now, for me, the reason why I like this, because this is almost it will happen till Tuesday. This one is easy. Yeah, agreed. I still think it's going to happen. Maybe we take our time on it, but in terms of a couple of days' time, Onana's going to start. I think. Well, we can come back to that comment as well, because Amrin did mention this in the press conference. So maybe we'll have this as the sort of the goalkeeper bit as it was. So for me, I think Lemens is something that, maybe like a Brentford would do, like a Brighton would do. And when I think about that, I don't think we necessarily need to be those clubs, but we do need to start to think about these potential signings. So I think for me, Lemens, Mr. B, Isaac, welcome, my friend. I hope you're doing really, really well. So for me, this is a signing that is not an obvious sign, or it wasn't to me. We spoke about this on this channel. This is why this channel is amazing, because we've spoken about Agume many a times. You guys have said about that. We've spoken about Stilo. We've talking about Belieber. We've spoken about so many different people, different players on this channel. And Lemens again is another one of these players. So Lemens is close. I'm now of the opinion that Lemens will happen. We have been saying this on here for quite some time. You can go back and look at the shows. I was pretty much convinced that Lemens was going to be done. One of the reasons why I'm slightly shifted in some respects is because I didn't understand why we weren't going to get this done. The price was touted around £17 million, and it transpires that is actually what it is. It is around that 20 million euro mark, which is about 17 million pounds. I think this is a great deal. I think this actually shows some good ambition as well. Toxic said, why is Ruben Amorim better than Ten Hag and transfers getting better plays? I think that if you think about Ineos is getting good too. Toxic, I wouldn't go that far just yet. Obviously, we've got our different opinions on here, but I like some of the business that Ineos are doing. We can't get carried away on the aspect of, yes, we are getting better players in, but ultimately we still have players here. So that maybe let's focus, as you say, on the players that we have brought in, right? So Tulip Play says, hey JB, finally an actual keeper who can catch and the ball, let's go. And Tulip Plays again, legend of the chat. We were talking about this weeks and weeks ago, and we were saying that pretty much we were sold on Lemens, and we thought that Lemens was basically going to come into this club. And I think we were pretty much, I wasn't as confident necessarily, purely because we hadn't done it for the price, but I think we've been there or thereabouts. This says, hi, why we rush at putting down our own and rushing at praising new signings? I believe fans, we need to learn be patient with everyone until they can offer none good no more. It should be, I think, in some respects, my friends, I think you are right. I'll tell you where I am on this one. So I think that, for example, players were very quick to look at a Xerxes, right? I wasn't one of those people. Not because I'm perfect, just because on Xerxes I was never. I always thought that he was a player. Given time, he would be good, and he was only here for like 3 months, right? And then people started to turn. But the problem that I've got is I will support players, right? Even though, and I'll be consistent. Luke Shaw for me needs to go. Delo needs to go. For me, Ugarte needs to go, right? And I get what you're saying, but Mushabi, I think people need to acknowledge, and I think people do need to acknowledge your statement as well. But we had a team that finished 15th last season. That can't be ignored. We had the worst season that we ever had. Was it Ten Hag's fault? In my opinion, no. You got to go through this team. You got to look at Casemiro. He hasn't been good for 3 years. Luke Shaw's been injured for a couple of years. He has gone through God knows how many managers. You've got to look through this squad. Ugarte has come in, and this is his second year. This for me, his second year is pivotal. But Mushabi, we can't give these players 2-3 years because how many chances do these players want? I agree we have to be patient. I agree with you. We have to give them at least 2 years, possibly 3. I'd give young players 2, 3, 4 years. That's fine. But when you're signing players for massive money like Shesko needs to be given 2 years, in my opinion. Then into the third season, if he's not good enough, he's not good enough. So I take your point that we need to support the players that are still here. But you look at an Anthony, you look at a Garnacho, you look at a Rashford, you look at a Malacia, they're not good enough. But also we need to analyse these players who are still here that finished 15th last season. So Onana for me, he's not good enough. So hence why Lemens for me is a step in the right way. I absolutely get your point, and I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. But at the same time, I think that we also need to be aware of 2 points. So let's not be too quick to judge the new guys, but then at the same time we can't be given, because ultimately if we want to be the best, then we've got to demand the best. These players need time, but at the same time they need to be showing us as fans. It's not like they're getting paid peanuts. They're getting paid millions of pounds a year, and we should demand the best out of our players. We can't keep 4 keepers, I reckon, being very so toxic. I think you're right, my friend. We need to get Team Grift out of our club. The Hexian legend of the chat, my friend. I think you're right. We do need to get the Grifter team out. Me and JB called Lemens weeks ago. Tulip, we did, didn't we? We called this weeks ago. Scott, again, mate, I'll big you up, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Scott was bang on today on Lemens, absolutely spot on. Agent Scott is on the case, so absolutely brilliant. I did read the Plettigol stuff as well, and to be fair to Plettigol, he is a tier 1 Bundesliga, and I've used him in a positive light before with the Shesko stuff, and I think that's right. Where I think maybe there's a little bit of overlap here with sort of Romano and stuff. Romano is still kind of just because he doesn't come out with stuff doesn't mean I don't believe what Plettigol has said. I still think to some degree Steeler is still there or thereabouts. But the fact that Plettigol is pretty good on all the German stuff, I think you might be proved to be spot on that one. Toxic Mushabi says, always a United diehard, I believe we should sign both Lucien and Steeler. I love that to keep constant consistency in the midfield and be sure that sub coming off for another is good. Mushabi, I think you have summed that up well there, my friend. I think you're spot on. Absolutely spot on. I think a more ambitious club would go for those two, and they would definitely go. I agree with you. I think Agume and Stiller would be. I think they would remind me of a Cruz and a. I'm just trying to think of a Camavinga, possibly, or maybe a Tchouaméni. I think that's what they would sort of be like for me. But I do think that is exactly what we need, and I agree with you completely. Toxic says, talking about Luke Shaw, this is World Cup year, and World Cup year, Luke Shaw is always a beast. Exactly, Toxic. And do you know what? And to go by what Hesty says there, is that I'm very critical of Luke Shaw, and this will go up to what Mushabi is saying as well. If we can get a good year out of Luke Shaw, and Amarin in the press conference today was waxing lyrical about Luke Shaw and Mason Mount as well. If these two players can contribute this season, great. I would still sell them next season. I still think we need an upgrade. I still think that they're too injury prone. But if they can have good games this year, I will praise them. I will praise them to the ends of the earth. You know, if they can contribute this season, I would still sell them both next season. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean that I'm right, but that's what I would do. Like here and now, but I think you guys could be right. If these guys are aiming for a World Cup, and it means that we get the benefit out of that, I'll praise them all to the heavens. But I the first chance we can get to sell them, I would absolutely sell them next season. True sure amount will give to make all the World Cup squad, so we can sell them next summer. Tulip plays exactly what I just said there, right? That is exactly what I think that we should do. You know, it's exactly right. That's exactly what I do. I would just, yeah. Hashirvani, yo, defense is completely nailed down for a decade. Euro, heaven, Lemens. Damien says hi, hello, my friend. Yeah. Go back to Lemens. We can go back actually to what Amarin said a little bit on the goalkeepers as well. Is that Ben Jacobs says it's a possibility United works the deal now, but Lemens comes next season if we couldn't get rid of a keeper. Hesty, I don't know when that's from, but literally in the last half an hour, I saw it 9 minutes after it came out. I saw that from Ben as well, so I don't know how long that's come out from Ben Jacobs. But Romano, literally, the latest update is that we've agreed terms with him. We're now just doing the sort of negotiation bit with Antwerp. So this keeper's coming. I'm now Lemens in. We have been talking about this for the longest time, and I do think we're not going to pay 20 million, 17.5 million, and when we need a keeper and loan him back. I just don't think that that's going to happen. If it does, big up to you, Hesty. Big up to Ben, but I just can't see that happening, and I should tell you the reason why as well. So Amarin in the press conference today, if you get a chance, read it or watch it. He's basically saying that he doesn't know his goalkeeper. He doesn't know who's going to start. Now, he was asked a direct question about Onana, and he basically said his words were that Onana was fit to play in the last game. So this is where I believe that Lemens is going to come in, because he basically said that, and these are his words, is that Onana was fit to play in the last game, but he didn't. And he's also said, let's see where we are in this game. So if Bienda keeps his place and Onana doesn't come in for the Fulham game, Onana, the writing is on the wall for him, and maybe this is a kind of way to force him to get a loan out or move towards the back end of the window. Bienda, for me, would be the one to get out of the club. Cheap deal for somebody to do, stick him out on loan and fight Onana for that number one. But I can't read Amarin. I can read the club. I just can't read Amarin right now as to what he wants to do. So what he did say in the press conference today is that Onana has been fit and he could have played the last game, but he made a decision that he wasn't going to play. So he still doesn't know if Onana, and he still hasn't confirmed that Onana is going to play in this game. So if you have just joined, Fabrizio Romano in the last half an hour, maybe 35 minutes ago now, has basically said that Lemens has agreed to come to the club. Personal terms are done. He's very close. We are close with Antwerp for agreeing a deal just under 20 million euros, about 17.5 million pounds. And I think, despite what Ben says in terms of, he's going to come to the club, and we've been talking about this for a long time on here, and this is the one thing I will say about the channel. Even just give us a like on that. If you go back over the things that we've said, and logically when we talk about them on here, is that most of the time we are pretty much right, or there and thereabouts. Belieber stuff, wrong in that. There is a little bit I will bring into this about him as well, but Lemens is basically the one that we've all been calling out on this. Hesty says, I'm still worried. We're going over that. Mr. B says, the one thing I'm worried about is signing a big name like Camavinga in the midfield, which would take away the chance to sign Belieber. But again, an injury prone, yet we could purchase two midfielders. Camavinga is not coming, mate. I think what I'm starting to just because of what Ineos are doing in the football side, is we're staying away from those sorts of players. I really hope that we are. Camavinga, for me, is not coming in. I think that's just been pushed out there potentially for a Camavinga new deal. Maybe Real Madrid want to sell him because they want to buy a player, but I don't think with that stupid this year. If Ineos football side decide to do that deal, which I don't think they will, if Stieler's there for 50 million or Agume's there for 30, why would you go for Camavinga? So I there's loads of stories now, Musha B, that are going to go around in the next couple of days. We're going to be linked to every midfielder on the planet. Some of it's just going to be for clicks, but Camavinga is not coming. Absolutely not. Damon says, I don't know what to believe anymore. Outlets say different things all the time. Exactly, Damon. Damon, what we do on here, right? And maybe this is just my opinion with this chat, right? Is that when we come on here, what I will always say to you is, I'm not a dictator of the chat, right? And I'll come on and I'll give you my opinion on stuff. Just because I give you my opinion, that isn't the last word on it. We come on here and we talk about, and we logically go through different things, right? If you look at the timeline of the things that we've done, we spoke about Shesko and why we thought that was going to happen. When everyone else was going for clicks, we remained calm. Lemens, we've not said he's not coming, but we spoke about it. We said we think he's going to come, of all the goalkeepers that we get. And what we do on here is from a logical perspective, and from everybody on here, we've spoken about Agume weeks and weeks ago. We spoke about Stiller weeks and weeks ago. And this is what we do on here. So what I'm hoping is that when people look at the channel, if you go back and just have a little look at the things we say, and when I read out the chats and that kind of stuff, you start to see a very logical, very balanced community here. And I'd say to you, if you want logic and consistency, I would definitely come on here. We've got so many amazing people now, that I would just come on here. Tensu says, I hope you were well. Here we go, be soon in Lemens. We still need one more sign, especially that CDM will be still. Tensu, legend of the chat, my friend. I'm very well, and hope you're doing extremely well too, my friend. I do believe that. CDM. Now, Tensu, and I'm going to keep mentioning this whenever we talk about CDMs in place, because I think it's really important to mention this. Bruce Aldridge said, perfect. Tensu said, Belieber will be next summer. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow will be another day about Belieber. Exactly. Unless we get Champions League, I can't see Belieber come in. But again, I'll go on to Belieber. So remind me, I'll go on to Belieber. I'll read the chats. I'll go on the CM that I wanted to talk about, the positioning of CDM, and there's some Belieber stuff as well. Andres Francis said the Onana situation feels like Højlund's situation. They're trying to push him out. That's my feeling. Andres, I think you're spot on, mate. I think you are spot on. Højlund's going to go. Højlund's going to go, in my opinion, now to Napoli, unless for whatever reason they can't get a. The only sticking point for Højlund is that he wants an obligation to buy. basically what he's saying is, I don't want to leave on loan. I'll leave on loan for this season, but I actually want to go permanently, and I admire that. I really, really do from him. So I agree with you. I think they're trying to push Onana out. There's internal discussions, but I think Onana's kicking his feet. Maybe Onana will be pushed into that bomb squad. You just don't know. But I think Onana's a good guy, and I think they want to treat him fairly. But at the end of the day, he knows the situation. So I think you're right. Hesty says at some point, Romano also said Lemens is based on exit, so I assume it depends on it could offload players first. That's why I'm worried. Hesty, yes, but I don't think it does, mate. I think when we're talking about getting a 23-year-old, pretty, not quite ready-made, but primed for a number one position for 17 million quid, I would just go do it. Heaton's here. I get that worst case scenario. Maybe you have four keepers, but for me, and actually, I'll give you another point from what Amarin said as well today. So to go back on what Hesty has said there, is that in the press conference today, Amarin was asked a question about selling players, and we need to sell players before players come into the club. And Amarin has said we don't need to do that. He said that the sales have nothing to do, getting these players out have nothing to do with the players coming in. So he's saying even if the players are sold, it doesn't mean new players are coming in. But also what he's saying as well is that we'll still get players in even if these players are not sold. So the two in effect are not linked. Obviously, in some part, he has to say that. Do I believe that completely? Of course not. But I do think that Lemens is going to come. Onana, I think, is going to be told. I think Onana's not going to play. I do think that Scott is right. I think Onana's not going to play. Bienda will play. Possibly you get a situation where Bienda goes. I think for me, of all of them, I think he'd be the one to go, and then Onana may not play again. But I'm not worried at this point. I've got this, for me, feels like a Shesko where I think I'm not concerned. I think we get this deal done. There's talk of him being loaned back. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that I'm relaxed. I think Lemens is now going to come. Camavinga is a great player, but he has an injury problem. Camavinga for me is that we should have got him, I think, from Rennes before Real Madrid. That's when we should have picked him up. But I don't want their players anymore. I think Camavinga is, don't get me wrong, he's not a bad player, but for me, if Real Madrid want to sell that sort of player, then they basically know that there's something wrong. So Africa Man says, hi, hello my friend Scott Bramwell. Bramwell, sorry. I generally don't believe we'll get Belieber next summer. I think he goes to Madrid or City, somewhere in. Scott, I think we're in the same camp. I think that Belieber was a one try, and that's where we are with it. If it's not this season, that's it. It's done and dusted. I just can't see it. Tensu Steeler is the best option. I think Steeler is the most gettable option. I really do. I honestly think he will join Madrid next summer. Scott, I agree with you, Matt. I think he was a one shot, and we dropped it completely. I appreciate our platform is referring to national platforms. I appreciate what we're doing, no malice towards our platform. Yeah, agreed. Exactly. There is nothing bad from us on here, mate. We champion people. We will obviously banter sometimes, but that is what we're doing here. Any agreement yet? So according to Fabrizio Romano, the player side is completely agreed. The deal's close. We are close with Antwerp. We're going to agree a fee of around just below 20 million euros. Fabrizio, that's where we are on that, and I think we get here we go quite soon. I think, like with the Shesko stuff, I was pretty much dead cert on this. I'm dead cert on this. I'm confident on this. I was confident on the Belieber stuff, but at the same time, I did have to temper that with there's many reasons as to why that wouldn't happen. There is a little bit on the Belieber stuff as well, which is starting to bug me slightly, but we can talk about that. My lovely appeal to United fans in the UK is, can we start a slogan or theme that builds full patience for the new signings, because that's all we need, and January window, but we need a great season. Mr. B, mate, I love that. I love that attitude. I really do. I love it. I think we need patience in this fan base. What we need, we need to monitor the situation because of last season. We still need to be accountable for their actions now, and if they're not good, they're not good enough. But I like that a lot. I really think we need patience. We need patience for the manager, but we don't live in a world of patience. I'm really sad to say we don't live in a world of patience. Everything is now. I mean, I demand certain things from this club. It's not aimed at the players. It's aimed at the club to get these players in and give the players all the best opportunities to shine. So I'd fall somewhere between, let's give them patience and let's put the pressure on the club to give them the patience, and let's get the club to actually unite the fan base by giving us something good. So if you give the manager good players, and guess what's going to happen? We're going to have a better team, and we will give patience. If let's just say we start to win games, right? Then the patience is there, but the patience is not. The patience is going to be aimed at something, and sadly, where the fans aim patience is at the players, because that's the only thing that we can not control, but that's the only thing. That's the only outlet that we have, and that's driven by the Glazers. But I do agree with you. I think if we give patience, I think we'll see something. Liam Mills says, why we did Rasmus dirty? I feel like he should have been the apprentice to experience head up front. Plus the wingers were so selfish. Liam, mate, spot on. I couldn't have summed that better up if I tried. I think you are spot on. I think it's a very intelligent comment to say. I think you're right, my friend. I think absolutely right. I will say we did him dirty. I will say Rasmus right now he's the apprentice. I still think Rasmus lacks a couple of tools. I think there are, when you think about strikers, there are things that strikers have to learn. In every position, winger, goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, there's certain characteristics that are natural, right? I think Rasmus has a lot to learn. I don't think his first touch is awful, but I think there is a player there. But other than that, I do agree with you that he needed to come in with a more experienced player and not lead the line at 20 years old. No other player really, other than Rooney, has come into this club at 18 and ruled the roost and been an amazing player. So I agree with you, my friend. Scott Brown says, when Lemens comes, it will push one of our keepers. Agreed with you, buddy. Absolutely agreed with you. Gavin Underwood. Madrid don't buy players for 100 million. Gavin, they don't today, mate. They get players on a free, or they get players at a low price. That is exactly what they do. Uganda loves United. I love United. I'm glad you hear that, my friend. Belieber has a good feeling for United. He's a fan of United. Some sources indicate club-to-club agreement. Martin Fay. I think that's pretty much there, mate. I think that's super close. The money won't be an issue whatsoever. We can't loan at the keeper straight away. We would be criminal. Exactly, Liam. That's not going to happen. Lemens is coming into this club, and he's coming in with a remit to oust Onana. What we did to Rasmus is a hard choice, but United needs the money. The bomb squad is giving us a headache. Yeah, Hester. I also think, actually, to be fair to Rasmus, I think that with Rasmus, I think he deserves a shot elsewhere. It's clearly not working out. I think that he needs his own opportunity. As much as I think we need the money, it is a hard choice, but we can't let a £64 million striker buy sit on the bench, So again, I agree with. He's had a really shitty time. He's had a really bad time. We've done him dirty, but ultimately, I hope now we do right by him and get him the right move. Gavin Underwood says, what about Cisse, the midfielder? He's at Rennes. Yeah, again, mate, these are signings. These are signings that we should be looking at. These, a Gourmet for me. I think we should go and do that deal. Cisse, Stieler, these players are there to be gotten. And I think we will regret not signing these players. And you guys in the chat, this is why you're so good, is because you name these players, and guess what happens? It seems to be then that the club is like offering these players. We offered them 55 million. I know, Scott, that is ridiculous. The good news, mate, it is. Dark says good video quality. I'm normally on my PC. This is whenever I'm on my phone. It's basically when somebody breaks. When something breaks, I basically haven't got time to set things up on the computer. I basically just jump on here and then just start to talk some stuff. But thank you though. Hesty, United is the only club approaching this season. We don't know next season exactly. Damon says we have a gaffer who knows what he wants and how to go about it, whereas in the past it was not the case. Let's support him. Damon, spot on, buddy. Again, I think we need to support the manager. And what really pleases me this season is that the majority of you guys who come on here and we talk about this, everybody does have their own opinions. Even though I support Amorim, I won't support him blindly. But what I really like about this community is the support. Is this definitely the support and the time for each other's opinions, but also support for the manager as well. I'm not so blind to say that Amorim, he may not be the guy, right? But we've got to give him that support and a little bit of time to build this squad. Sam says, how I see it is Lemens, we miss out on a midfielder and put up with Bruno in CM for next season, and he moves to Saudi and we try to replace him next summer. Do you know what, Scott? I've got a little theory as well, a conspiracy theory on Bruno. I think Bruno's already agreed to go next season, and I think that's why potentially we might be trying to do these deals next summer, because we know we're going to have 100 million from Fernandez next season. I think that if we finish 8th again next season, then my humble opinion is, what's Fernandez going to do at 32 years old? I agree that he brings things to this club, and this is not a dig necessarily at Fernandez, but 32 years old, there's only one way for him to go, and I think if we can get 100 million for him next season, I'd take it. I'd say thank you for the service. You've been one of our best players over the last 10 years. Thank you, but it's now time to hand over the baton to somewhere else. And I think you're right. I think we may not even go for a new CM, but the CM position is a very interesting one as well. Is Lemens done? No, Chief. It's not a Fabrizio done deal yet. But it's very, very close. It is really, really close, I think, to being done. I think we might get it. We could get it today, tomorrow, but probably Monday, just so we can get the weekend out of the way. And maybe we won't do it until Monday, because ultimately we don't want to impact the goalkeepers even more. So potentially we'll wait until Monday to announce that deal. ADF says United is a tragic mess. Replace their front line, but the sound is a catastrophe. The spine. I don't think the spine is ADF. I think part of the spine is. I almost liken our team now as, if you look at the base of the spine, you've got your discs, right? And I liken it to having 2 discs at the base of your spine that links the top half of your body to the bottom half of your body. We don't really have a spine anymore. I mean, we've obviously got a goalkeeper. Sorry, we've got a keeper. We've obviously got a centre back, but we've got 3 centre backs. We've got a striker, but we don't really have a spine anymore. What we do have is we have basically a pivot, and it reminds me of the base of your spine, basically linking your pelvis and like the top of your body. And if those don't work right, then basically you're screwed. So our front line, I think, is great now. I think the back 3 is absolutely fine. The wing backs work. It's just that middle of the park that basically links basically your base, your defense, to basically the top of your body, and that's where our problem is. And obviously the goalkeeper as well. Ferguson had problems with goalkeepers after Schmeichel until we got Van der Sar. Exactly, Martin. People people forget the amount of goalkeepers that we went through. We went through Taibbi, we went through Bosnich, we went through Barthez, we went through Howard, De Gea, and obviously De Gea ended up being a good goalkeeper, but we had Van der Sar, or we had Van der Gaal. Obviously, he was more of a second string keeper, but yeah, we went through so many keepers. It was unreal. Scott Bram says, I think we get top 5. I admire your enthusiasm. I think to get 5th, I think we need another midfielder. I think we're without that midfielder. I think we just miss out on 5th. ADF 100 mil for Bruno. United 7-0. Bruno a pathetic mess. ADF 7. I don't know who you support, but the Liverpool game 7-0, mate. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what you won that season or what Liverpool won that season. I don't think they won anything that season. So, 7-0 in one game, I get it, but literally the time has passed, and I think Liverpool should be focusing on their future and focusing on winning the league, which they have done now. So I think their focus should be on not 7-0ers in the past, but like the future. Now, as for Bruno for like 100 million, ADF, whether you like it or not, Saudi came in and offered that, mate. They were going to offer 120 million. So that's not a reflection on Fernandez. That's not a reflection on us. That's what the Saudis offered. The Saudis will come back in for him probably next season, and it won't be like 120. It'll probably be about 80 to like 100 million. He might be a pathetic mess in your view. He's not pathetic in my view. I think Bruno's been a fantastic player. He's not always great, but 7-0 is not on him. He played his part, but it's not on him. So I don't agree with that. I think Fernandez gets a lot of stick. I give him a stick, but he brings so much to this team, and I'm more than happily supporting him this season. But I think he'll be gone next season. Saudi will come in for like 100 million, and if you're not a fan of that, then it's not really for me to comment, is it? So who do you think is going if he comes? Who do you think is going if he comes? I think Bayinder's probably the one who goes, but I'm hoping that Onana gets a loan out. I don't think he will do, but I think that's what's going to happen. What's happening to the kids? We were featuring a pre-season, yeah. Mr. B, basically that's what pre-season is, right? We've got another kid actually, JJ and someone else, and I can't think of their names now, but 14-year-old. He's basically going to come and train with the first team squad. He's 14 years old. He's going to come and train with the first team squad. So the thing is, I think I get what you're saying, but these young kids, they come in pre-season. They're not good enough just yet. It's really important for them to be part of the first season or the pre-season, and then they go and get their loans. And this is what happens. I think is very rare for youth players to come through. And you have to bear this in mind that the class of 92 didn't come through when they were like 18. When they came into the main squad, they were like 22, 23, 24. So they've got time, and they all had loans, and they all did things around the club, and they paid their dues. So they will be back. They will be back, but they need playing time. So Damon says, I'm of the opinion that if we sign one more midfielder, I foresee problems for Bruno and Stiller and Humland. I think if we don't have a good season this year, I think Bruno will go. But I wish him well if he does. And yes, Chief Serb, his name's Chief Herb, mate. I'm a red-blooded United fan. Bruno is a disgrace versus Liverpool, unforgivable. ADF, I mean, I get it. I really, really do get it. But my problem here is that Bruno's going to play. I didn't want Bruno. I was one of the ones that wanted Fernandez gone. I don't think Fernandez is a captain. In my opinion, Bruno is not a captain of this club in terms of he's not a natural leader. But I don't blame him for the Liverpool game. You know, you can't just blame him. There are 11 people on that pitch. There's a coach involved as well. I can't just lay it at his door. But whether or not I wanted Bruno to go, I have to support him this season, because if we don't, he's going to play. And there's no point in winding yourself up because he's going to be here. So where I am with him is that he didn't go, therefore I might as well support him this season. He still does things, and I'll still call him out on stream just because I think he should be doing more. But I think we should be supporting him. He will go eventually, but he's what we've got, and we've just got to go with him. I'm excited for this season. I agree with you. Interesting take. I'm no Serbia racist. Think let's sort that out for a second. I'm gonna have to. I will remove that for a second. I'm just gonna remove that for a second as well. So that's gonna go as well. Let's have a look. It's gonna go. Let's have a little look. Let's have a look through this as well. Thank you. There you go. Cool, guys. Cool. ADF, Chief Herb. No issues here, guys. Just kind of have to be careful about what is written in stream. So Gabriel is the next big thing. Yes, Scott, I agree with you, mate. He looks amazing. Liam Mills Onana did get a new keeper agent at the start of the year. Apparently, some sort of Saudi move expert. Liam, if we can get Onana to Saudi, mate, that is amazing. Like, the wheelchair bloke is racist. ADF, mate. I'm gonna basically the only reason I have to remove that message is basically I'm not going to remove you, my friend. I just have to remove any connotations to things like that. You can't compete even in JB and all. And I'm a friend. Tenchu says if Sancho, Garner, Haaland, Malacia being the sell to another club, we will sign two midfielders, Stiller and Camavinga. Potentially, but I just don't think we're going to sell them all, mate. We're not going to sell Sancho is not going anywhere. Absolutely not. So if you have just joined before the messages, before I go to the next lot, Fabrizio Romano, probably about an hour ago now, basically broke that we're close to Lemens, close to getting that deal done. The player side is agreed. The deal is going to be roughly just under 20 million euros, about 17.5 million pounds. It's something that we've spoken about on here before, and I think is something that I think that we should be celebrating this when this happens. Hey buddy, sorry I couldn't attend your previous few streams. Not a problem. I was away myself as well, so yeah. Can't compete. There's no iron team. Just can't blame one player. ADF says, look, mate, you defend Bruno. United were dancing around relegation. Why do we support this? ADF, mate, again, I'm going to have to just remove that chat, my friend, because I've got to be on it. ADF, it's people's opinion. I mean, I get the anger. I do get the anger around certain players, but we all watch football in particular ways, right? And this has happened a couple of times, as I've noticed in the last couple of days, is that people get really frustrated when they feel really passionate, and I get it completely. People feel proper passionate about this club. They feel really passionate about players, and they can't see beyond their own opinion. And it doesn't mean to say that your opinion is wrong, but I get it. It's very, very frustrating when you can't understand why players playing, why you dislike a player, and any support for something that you don't like. And I feel the same about the Glazers, right? I feel the same about the Glazers, that Ineos, and the way that they behave in this club. But I've had to learn to temper that. and I'm never gonna hold people accountable for not thinking the same way, because in my mind I'm just like, I don't understand that people cannot see what I see, but I also appreciate that people have their own opinions. So I think it's very dangerous at times to be one-sided and just have a really locked down view. You can have a lockdown view and almost be true to yourself, but I don't think to sort of call people out and get really not abusive as such, but use language like that. I just this is not the place for that. Tenchi says Steeler can play number 8, number 6, number 10. He's a quality player. He's deep line, make it. He's not athleticism. Bramwell says, I know will never happened by my dream semis. Valverde, Sancho will sit on his arse. Exactly, Scott. I think you're right, my friend. I think you are spot on. Sancho is not going anywhere. What I've been saying about him is that Sancho and his team and agents are playing a fantastic game. They know exactly what they're doing. They're going out to clubs, making it look like they're going to move, but they're not moving. Why would they? Why would Sancho let the club make 20 million off of him, not pay him off, and then not want to pocket that money next year when he moves for free? It just doesn't make sense at all, does it? You can't compete. Mod should be removing these comments and taking the strain off you, JB. You can't compete, mate. I don't know. I don't know if there's any mods in here today. Actually, I do need to create some more mods. So if anybody wants to become a moderator, let me know, and I'll give you those rights that you can just remove people who are who are not playing to the rules. Hesty says talking about Bruno wouldn't make him gone and then get 100 million, total wasted time. Tensu, Sancho so selfish. Ever play it? I agree with you, Matt. I think he's just I think that Sancho is probably one of the worst players that I've ever seen. His biggest highlights are when he moves. Scott Brown says, I'm from Manchester and the city is red and will always be red. Scott, I think someone come on this morning and actually said that basically said the same. They said that City is blue. I mean, I've been to Manchester loads and loads of times, right? I love the place, and I've been up there for work. I've been to see the club quite a number of times, and I agree with you, my friend. I think United is red. City, obviously, you see more shirts, and in some respects, I admire what they've done and what they've been able to achieve. But let's not pretend here. United is red. They are the biggest, one of the biggest clubs in the entire world. Not manufactured from nothing. There's a history. There's a pedigree there. City, you could argue, have a little bit of history, but United, you don't get Shesko, you don't get Cunha, you don't get Mbermo unless you're one of the biggest clubs and you beat off clubs who are in Champions League. If you're not as big as we are, so if any, Chukawu, bro, good evening to you. Good evening to you, my friend Liam Mills. ADF, just support the players. Bruno gives everything. Exactly. You can, Liam, you can want Fernandez to have been sold. You cannot be sold on Fernandez like me, but I absolutely will support him on the pitch. He gives everything for this club, and how can we not support him? I don't get it. It's ultimately, when the window closes and we've got these players here, we definitely need to support these players. Scott, mate, you are. Let's add you as a mod, my friend. Legend of the chat. Agent Scott is now a mod. Amazing, thanks, buddy. You're right. Manchester's always red. Abel says hi. Hello, my friend. If any, because we have been hoping for this for a long time, I swear, because we're totally tired of Onana. I agree. I don't mind being a mod, just can't be all the time. You can't compete, mate. It doesn't matter. If you want to be a mod, my friend, happily add you as a mod. I'm loving all these requests for mods, guys. Absolutely amazing. I appreciate it so much. in the corporate world, if you don't perform, your service gets terminated. What's the situation with soccer teams? Can they also? Damon, mate, I love that analogy. I think you're spot on as well. No, Isaac has proved that. Football players can only really get sacked if they're caught doing illegal stuff. So the only player I can remember getting sacked is Mewtwo from Chelsea. He got sacked and basically had to pay back all of his wages. So it is very few and far between. You literally have to either unalive somebody or basically take things you're not supposed to take. That's pretty much the only reason. Lemens says I'm from Stockport, which is supposed to be City's home base, and I think we outnumber them shirt-wise. Brilliant. Oh, I love that. The club should decide Santos' contract. They terminate his contract. I think they should just terminate his contract, mate. I think they should just pay him off. I mean, he's going to get paid anyway, right? So I would just pay off his contract and say, see you later. No one's going to come in for him. He's not going to go on loan, unless I'm mistaken. I think he, should go. If we had Bruno Fernandez on the pitch, we'd be laughing. I agree. Said hi. I'm Bonington, but originally from Sale. See, I'm loving how this community brings you all together. Brings you people, brings you guys together, and for the one love. Just before I go, and I will be back tonight. Tonight we'll go through the press conference. I used to drink at the guys. I'm loving it. I'm loving the comments. I will be back tonight. We can go through the team as well. Go through the Fulham team where we think that what's going to happen. We can talk through the press conference as well. Jump on for a bit and then kind of hopefully Lemens comes on. There might be some stuff about Steeler as well. Maybe we'll come back on with that one and see what happens. So guys, again, this was just going to be a quick show. This chat is amazing. So I can only thank you. So if you have just joined again, Lemens is basically close. Lemens £17.5 million roughly ish. Really close. The players' terms have been agreed. Club to club stuff is close, so I'm hoping that I'm basically hoping that we'll get a here we go. Maybe not before Sunday, because we obviously don't want to disrupt the goalkeepers, but let's see what happens. So guys, amazing. Thank you for the chat. Thank you for spending time here. What I always say is really important for me to acknowledge the chat. One thing in life you can't buy, and that's time. It's so important that in life you can buy fancy cars, you can buy massive houses, you can have billions and billions of pounds, but you can't buy time. And the fact you've decided to spend that with each other, with me, I think it's immense. Really is. And you guys are legends. And yeah. So I will catch you guys in a bit. Have a good rest of your afternoon, etc. I'll come back on. Feel free to join me. I'll try and do 8 o'clock-ish maybe. I'll put it up there, so give us a shout, guys. So thank you all. As always, thank you to the new mods. Legends. Thank you for the chat, guys. Gavin as well, my friend. Legend. I will see you very soon. So take care and see you soon.